Party. I don't want to say that she was elected, because she wasn't. It was another coup by the Democrat Party in order to install who they want to be. We all know that they have a history of doing this. They did this with Hillary Clinton. They did this with Joe Biden. They did this with Barack Obama, and they're doing it more and more blatantly as history progresses. So it's been like people have been clamoring for this for quite a while, saying, "Hey, Kamala Harris, you're the new nominee of the Democrat Party because Joe Biden shit the bed. So you should come out and do like an impromptu interview, or a town hall or something to address the American people on what you're proposing for you to be the way forward as the next president of the United States." And they've been tiptoeing their toes around her doing this for whatever reason. And people are like, well, if you're the nominee, you need to talk to the people. You need to address questions. They have questions for you. Where do you see the country going forward? What are the policies you're going to be implementing? And some of the concerns that everyday people have about the economy and the way it is right now. And now there's two types of economies. Obviously, there's the Wall Street economy, with the stocks and everything like that, and the GDP. And then you have the economy of the less fortunate people that have nothing to do with that side, and is just looking at grocery prices, gas prices, everyday essential things. And now the people in Washington, they're like, well, the economy is doing great because the GDP is up and money's flowing through, and we're one of the richest nations in the world, if not the richest. So things are going fine. But then the people on the bottom are like, yeah, it's good for you guys, but all that means is that prices are going up and everything is more expensive. So it's not good for us. It actually sucks. And so those are the questions they want to address. Like, how are you going to help us? Are you going to hire wages, through some type of an incentive program? Are you going to artificially hire wages through, minimum wage hikes and things of that sort, which is only going to drive prices higher? And so they want these questions answered. And Kamala Harris is, I don't know if she's refused to do it up until now, but she has definitely been tiptoeing around this request for a long time. And so when this came out, everybody was lambasting it because, first of all, it's from CNN, which we all know is a lefty, safe haven for Democrats, and they always do softball interviews. And so nobody thought that this was going to be like an actual interview. It was going to be a softball thing and everything like that. And on top of that, the reason why they chose CNN is because Kamala Harris is actually good friends with the CEO. And so everybody was like lambasting her for that. But, and then on top of that, the interview is only 18 minutes long. Like the pre-recorded interview is only 18 minutes. They cut it down from, I think it was what? Well, it was like a 41-minute actual interview, less than an hour, and then they cut it down to 18 minutes. It's like, damn, man. So does that leave 23 minutes unaccounted for? What the hell was going on for that 23 minutes? Was it just deadpan silence, or she's speaking so incoherently or giving dumb answers that they were like, okay, we need to cut that all the hell out. And CNN is not releasing the transcripts of the whole interview, which is, suspicious. And why the hell would they not do that? And the reason why is because either since the material is being let out on the interview, which probably shouldn't happen with a news organization, especially from a presidential candidate and the acting VP. Or she sounded so stupid and incoherent that they were like, we need to scrub all that. We're CNN and we're like totally, for the Democrats. You're the Democrat nominee. We can't make you look stupid. So we're going to cut that all out. Any which way you look at it, it looks bad. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to preface the interview that we're going to go over by looking at some of the things that Harris has done in the past. And what she does in impromptu interviews or speeches is that she focuses in on like a certain, I don't know, it's not even an idea, but it's like a phrase. And then she keeps repeating it in different ways as she's talking. Now, this is a perfect one to look at. And we're going to look for this in her interview, but let's take a look at what she's talking about here. Something about the passage of time. I'm sure some of you have seen it.
I'm doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. And
What?
that means to the future of our nation, depending on whether or not they have the resources they need to achieve their God-given talent.
Okay, so there's great significance to the passage of time to create jobs and to make sure that the children have the resources they need for their future. But the way she said it was like so weird. It's like, okay, there's great significance to the passage of time because time is significant, and it gives us the ability to create jobs to allow us to give children resources for their God-given talent. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was just jargon. I don't know what the hell she was trying to say there. I don't know what she was trying to get across. I'm guessing what she was trying to get across is that time is significant because time is ever flowing. And so we need to go ahead and get work done. That's why we can have enough resources. So when our children grow up, we have the means in order to give them the opportunity to, display their talents and be able to go forward. But they have to work for that too. It's not just given to them. And so, yeah, whatever she was trying to say, it did not hit home whatsoever. So we're going to be looking out for that, for the jargon she keeps ah, how do you say that fucking word? Reiterating. I'm probably saying it wrong. A notion like the passage of time, and it's very significant. The significance of the passage of time is very significant because it's time. It's like, whatever, dude. Okay, I don't understand you.
Just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? Just quickly put a button.
Okay, so this is another one I wanted to look out for that she does quite often, is that when she comes across a difficult question, she tries to completely kill the question itself. It's like it's like typical woman thing is that she'll either she'll make fun of the question, she'll demean the question, or she'll try to like move on to another subject that probably has nothing to do with the general question being asked. And this is a perfect example of that. This was an interview she did as vice president. So let's check this out regarding the border and the border. This was happening, I think, in 2022, where the border was already seeing record highs of people coming across not being vetted. And this guy is asking her about it. So let's see how she dodges it.
Put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this, but Democratic Congressman Cuellar has a border district, has said to you and the president, come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border.
Just quickly put a button.
Well, obviously not if you haven't seen what's going on there. And this is one of the things that we might see during the interview when she's trying to go ahead and like get away from a question she has no answers for. She really didn't have an answer for this guy. It was a very simple question. Okay, you haven't been to the border yet. When are you planning to go to the border? And she's like, oh, we'll go, sometime in the future, and we don't have any plans. And it's like, well, okay, well, the Georgia border is very important. You should probably go. And she's like, well, I haven't been to the border and I haven't been to Europe. It was like, it's just a bad way of trying to dodge a question. And it's very apparent that she doesn't want to answer it or go over the topic itself. And we're probably going to see some of this during the interview if they decide to ask her any question she feels uncomfortable with. She's going to try to like push it aside just like this. I hope she doesn't, because it's not going to be good for her at all. Or maybe I do, because I want Trump to win, obviously, if you could see my hat. But I don't feel that anybody should be putting themselves in very bad positions to where their future is tarnished. And this girl's, very quickly, people are going to realize that she's just not fit to be president. All right, so let's get to the interview now. We already went over some of the things we might see, so let's take a look at the whole thing ourselves. I'm going to have to stop, obviously, periodically throughout this interview. I'm probably going to have to move forward a little bit, get off from the stupid introductions or whatever like that, get to the actual questions, because I don't want to get copyrighted and all that crap. All right, let's go.
The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
Okay, so that was a non-answer, obviously. She basically asked, okay, so what are you planning on doing on day one? Support the middle class. Okay, how? She didn't answer the question. She didn't answer her own answer by explaining how she's going to do that. Instead, she went off and, blamed Trump for the way the trajectory the nation's going in a philosophical sense, in terms of, people not liking each other, things of that. But that's not going to help the middle class at all in terms of like their issues that they got going on right now with, prices, with policies, insurance, crime rates. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people saw already that in Colorado, a gang took over a whole apartment complex, and that their governor is basically saying, well, we can't determine that these immigrants are bad people. They're taking over an apartment complex without permission. They didn't pay for it. They're not leasing it, nothing. They're just kicking people out or threatening them, with whatever. And so, yeah, unfortunately, this is whatever she just said right there. It's basically like a notion of what she would like to do, but it doesn't help clear that up at all.
What would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib.
The only problem with that is that that's a Band-Aid. That's all that is. It's a Band-Aid. It's like, okay, the first year of a child's life. Okay, what about the next year and the next year and the next year? Childs are dependent upon their parents for the first 18 years of their lives. And then, they go off to college, hopefully, either off to college or like go to a vocational school to learn a skill that, is used in the infrastructure of society. And then they become a contributor to it. So only 1 year is not enough. It's not enough at all in order to bring down basic goods. She's not addressing that at all. To me, that's a Band-Aid.
There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of...
And the whole affordable housing thing, I think that's a train wreck ready to happen. That's a communist, socialist idea. And her proposal is that she's going to give $25,000 as the down payment for anybody that wants to buy a home. Homes right now are crazy prices. I think it was 50%, or it was like 25 to 35% higher than in the past 4 years. At this moment, interest rates are very, very high. So if you give somebody, like, let's say somebody goes and tries to buy a car that they can't afford, it's like, okay, but we'll give you the down payment for the car so you get it for zero down when you go and, request it. So the guy goes, fills out all the paperwork. This is your monthly payment. This is your interest rate, which is probably going to be at like damn near 12% with the economy how it is right now. And then the guy drives off the lot. Yes, I got a new car. I'm happy for this one day. And then a month later, the bill comes due, and it's like $450, depending on the type of car he gets, anywhere from that to like $1,500, probably a rent payment, if he wasn't stupid enough to get an expensive car. And he can't pay it off. He goes into debt relief. The debt goes and the dealership goes and represents his car. His credit goes into the toilet, and he has to declare bankruptcy. And now he's worse off than he was prior to getting the car. So yeah, her notion of trying to help the middle class by building houses and then giving them their down payment is stupid. It's not going to help anybody. If anything, it's going to cause a crash,
Things on day one.
financial crash, like it was back in 2008.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be, and I think many of these things that the Vice President's proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood poverty by a third. We did it in Minnesota. To have a federal partner in this, unbelievable, I think, in the impact that we can make.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity.
Yeah, for that 1 year. It'll be for 1 year that it reduces that. But what about all the other years? Remember, kids are dependent upon their parents up to 18 years old, depending on when they leave home. And that's most of America. So, yeah, it's not going to solve anything. It's just a Band-Aid, guys.
Economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost.
And why were they lost? Why was the job market so low during that time? Oh, it's because Democrats wanted to shut down all the states. All the restaurants had to shut down because they were afraid of spreading the virus. Okay, so we have to have people 6 feet apart. Restaurants can't have more than, 25% of their max capacity. That included lowering their staff, lowering the amount of people that can come in. They hadn't established, especially in the very beginning, they didn't establish that food can be delivered to people safely because of this thing. So everybody had to artificially shut down, which means the money stopped going in. The economy pretty much crashed down to nothing. But the problem is that rent is always due. These bills are always due. So just because you shut down the economy doesn't mean that you don't have to, that your rent is not obligated the next month. And so that keeps coming up. But now you killed our business. We're not getting the same revenue we were prior to, you shutting us down. And that folded up a lot of businesses because if you have no money coming in and you can't pay your bills, you're either going to have to cut staff, services, or cut your business down completely. And that's what happened to a lot of businesses, small businesses in California. I researched this up, so I know what I'm talking about. California had more than 100,000 businesses fold up because of the pandemic, because of the artificial shutting down by Gavin Newsom and, the Democrats. And this happened a lot in a lot of Democrat-run cities. And so when she's talking about this, 10 million jobs were lost, they were artificially lost. It wasn't because all of a sudden the businesses just went down the drain because of bad, governmental policy. Well, it did, but it was forefronted by the Democrats because they didn't want, the notion was that they didn't want the virus to spread. And so it's kind of an unfair assessment to say that was all Trump's fault. Trump actually didn't want to shut down any state. He wanted to keep them open just to be like smart and like, the way that you went about your life in terms of, not handshaking everybody, coughing on your hand and handshaking people and stuff like that. It was more common sense stuff. But her to say that is very disingenuous.
People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of...
And I've said this before, the numbers when it comes to the actual death rate of COVID-19, I think all of that is bunk. And it's probably a third of that, if that. And the reason I say that is because there was a report sent out that any hospital, when a patient would come in and he happened to have COVID, he was treated as a COVID patient, even though he went in for another reason besides COVID. So if there was a motorcycle accident and a guy comes in and he has like a broken leg or something, but he just so happened to have COVID at the time, they treated him as a COVID patient. And if he died because of the accident, his leg and he lost too much blood, they would treat that as a COVID death. So I think a lot of the deaths when it comes around COVID were very, what would you say? Um, they added too many that weren't actual definitive COVID deaths. That's what I'm trying to say.
Of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in,
There was more deaths in the Biden administration towards COVID than there was under Trump. Just to let you know that. They stopped counting. Remember that huge freaking counter they had about COVID deaths during when Trump was president at the time in 2020? They had this huge on CNN, MSNBC. They had this huge counter of COVID deaths, and like went to the hundreds of thousands, and it went into millions and stuff like that. And they stopped it after Biden became president. Like probably like a month afterwards, they stopped it because actually the numbers were growing at a faster rate than under Trump. So yeah, no.
our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world.
Because they instituted a policy to work. Okay, let's open things up now. Everybody's getting pissed off. Businesses are getting like laid off. All the competition is gone. Let's start opening things up now so that we can get the economy back on track. And it got so bad that they had to give out loans to businesses in order to even stay afloat to survive. But those were loans. Those weren't like unforgived money to these businesses. So these businesses had to pay this back at pretty high rates. And so this whole notion is like, oh, we brought back the economy. We brought back. No, all you did was actually open it back up because it was an artificial shutdown.
But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging, what we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take.
This whole price gouging idea, and then price, what would they call it? It's not price locks, things like that. That kills businesses. And because the reason why the businesses have the prices that they are is because the cost of everything that entails, running the business, the prices are going up because of this, poor policy judgment. And so these businesses aren't like just deciding, hey, why don't we just hike our prices another 20%? Why the hell not? No, they have a reason to do that because there's a bunch of policies in place that prevent them from price gouging. Those laws are already in place. And so by her saying I'm going to go after price gouging doesn't make any sense to the person that's in the know of the policies that are already in place. It's only to the layman person who's like, yeah, they're hiking the prices just for nothing. No, it's not because of that at all. It's because everything, all the other prices like oil, lumber, pretty much everything, the delivery services, oil has a lot to do with it because of gas. If the price of gas goes up, then a lot of businesses with trying to get the resources to their establishment, that goes up too, because if oil goes up, that means all the delivery costs goes up, the production goes up, the distribution goes up. It affects everything. So that's why when Trump is asked, hey, what are you going to do about the prices going down, and how are you going to get everybody more money and things of that sort, he says drill baby drill, because one of the huge components of prices going up is gas going up. If gas goes up, it affects everything else.
Care of their children in their most formative years, what we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Again, like I said before, giving people just free money to go in and put a down payment on a home is not enough, because they're not gonna be able to afford the payment plan that's gonna be proposed to them during the negotiation process of buying the home. And then the next month's gonna come along, the next month they're gonna get more and more in debt. Then they're gonna have to foreclose on the home. The home is gonna be taken away from them, and they're probably gonna be in worse off shape than they were prior to getting the home. So, yeah, it's not going to work.
The steps that you're talking about now, Why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down.
What? What? We have to recover? Recover from what? You've been in office 3.5 years. COVID hasn't been a serious problem since 2022, or even before that, really, if you really want to get to it. It hasn't been a problem since then. So, yeah, 2.5 years to get this shit together, and you haven't done it.
To less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump.
That was Donald Trump's doing. He instituted that. So don't start taking credit for what Trump has done. She's already doing that, so it's not surprising. But look that up. Trump is the one that instituted that $35 cap on insulin. He's the one that did that, not Harris or Biden.
Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited, I was in Nevada recently.
And when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, a lot of these insurance companies are getting subsidies from the government for allowing these lower prices on drugs, which is basically everyone is paying for somebody's drugs. So when they're talking about, oh, your copay is only going to be a certain amount, like a $200 cap when you go down and then you get a very expensive drug, that's basically saying that the government is paying these insurance companies. So it's not like, we put in a policy to where they're incentivized to have a lower price because like it's a little bit more profitable for them in some other instance. No, it's that they're paying them to have lower drug prices.
A grandmother who showed
And
me
that's
her
your money, by the way.
And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that anymore.
You maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors.
That's not going to work either. Capping the costs at stuff like that, it doesn't work. It has to be incentivized to go having lower costs. And usually to have lower costs, you have to have competition in order to do that, because then your competition is going to, undercut you on price. And so you have to lower your price too to get more people to come in. But if you artificially put in a policy that caps the price on certain things like that, all you're going to end up with is lower services and lower product. I mean, there was a huge, over the past 2 years, a huge shortage on insulin products, on Adderall, things of that sort, attention deficit products, because everybody's trying to go ahead and get them. And these businesses are realizing, hey, we're not making profit off of this stuff because of these caps on it. So, we have to cut it somewhere. And that's what they do. They cut off on supply. And so that's why there's this huge supply shortage, especially in the pharmaceutical industry. Even now, there's a shortage on a lot of stuff.
Seniors at $2,000. When we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs.
Oh, yeah. They got lambasted during the DNC for this, that that they said that there was a million job growth over this last cycle. Even the DNC at the time had to go ahead and come out and be like, well, the Bureau of Labor actually said that it was only 114,000 jobs that were created, not a million. So you were like inflating your numbers. They inflated it by like 90% because it was only 114,000 jobs created, and they said a million. So that's 800 and something thousand jobs that they freaking lied about. It's insane.
Bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity.
How? How did you do that? Like, the prices are more than ever. If that was true and we're bringing jobs back to America through manufacturing, then there'd be a lot more wealth going around because other countries are investing in us. So there's a lot more wealth circulating in America. But we know that's not true.
On where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020.
Okay. No, she didn't. There's a interview right there where she was the VP pick for Biden. Biden wasn't president yet. This was during the presidential campaign back in 2020, and she said that Biden was not in favor of banning fracking, even though he was in favor of it during his campaign rallies that he was going to. He even told a young woman, "Hey, we're gonna stop fracking. We're gonna stop that. We're gonna get rid of it. We're gonna weed it out." That was his actual phrase. We're gonna weed fracking out. We're gonna weed drilling for oil out. That was his phrase that he used. And during her interview as the VP pick, she said that Joe Biden was in favor of not banning fracking, and so she never came out herself and said, "I'm not in support. I want to ban fracking," or "I do not want to ban fracking." She never came out and said that. But there is footage of her prior to saying, "There's no verbatim." This is what she said. She said, "There's no question that I'm in favor of banning fracking." That was actually what she said. So there was never a time that she came out and said that, "Oh no, I reversed my policy on that. I'm in favor of not banning fracking." So unfortunately, she's lying right there.
That I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, "There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." So
there you go.
So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the?
Obviously, you changed your position if you're saying that, because in that interview she did say there's no question that I would ban fracking, and now she's saying she wouldn't. So keeping your word, which word are you talking about? Are you talking about banning fracking or not banning fracking? It's like, okay, so you're saying that you won't ban fracking, and then you stayed on this course, but then you're saying that I've kept my word, but your former word was something else. It's like, it's confusing. I don't think it's gonna go over well with the voters. So we'll see.
Time.
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take.
See, that's where people are going to get icked by, man. My values have not changed. They obviously have changed. They obviously have.
Seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice.
Yeah, you know what that vote also did? It also set the IRS against, low wage workers in the service industry to go ahead and go after their tips, to tax their tips. That's what that also did. And she's over there saying now that she's going to go ahead and institute a policy to where their tips are going to be protected from the IRS coming after their tips in terms of taxing them. It's like, you're the ones that instituted that fucking policy, bitch. And now you're turning around on the other side of your mouth and saying, "Oh, I'm going to take that away." It's like, you're the one that instituted it. That's why I don't like Democrats, man. That's why, well, at least political Democrats, the Democrat elite, I hate them because they always talk out both sides of their mouth. They're always saying what is more politically advantageous at the time. It's sneaky, it's underhanded, it's two-faced, it's disingenuous. Yeah, that's why I don't mess with the Democrats, man.
Vice president. So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, "Oh, okay, I get it now"?
what I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking.
Okay. Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
the northern part
Yeah.
of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S.
And this is how she dealt with it, by the way. Let me see if I can find it. It's actually pretty funny. Is this it? Oh, yeah, this is it. This is how she dealt with it. She went down to Brazil, Venezuela, and all that stuff, and this is what she told the people.
Do not come. Do not come.
That's what she said to them. Do not come. And as everyone well knows, we have well over 13 to 20 million people in the United States that are undocumented. That's how much we have in 3.5 years of this administration. 13 to 20 million people came during her time as vice president. And that's what she told them. Do not come. And this is what the people ended up telling her through Trump.
I'm going to come.
That's exactly what they said. All those migrants that came over, man. That was their exact response to this dumb broad. Oh man. All right, let's go back to it.
During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of
You mean outside the U.S.? In Venezuela and all them? So you brought jobs to them. That's basically what she's saying. We brought investments and jobs to Venezuela, Brazil, and all these other places. But that doesn't benefit the American people.
immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that
No, it didn't.
Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill.
So this is what I got from that. Basically what I got from that is that Donald Trump is more powerful than all of Congress, the VP, and the president. And he's not even in office. That's what I got from that. It's like you're saying that you were so weak as vice president that you couldn't take on Donald Trump when he wasn't even in office. He's not a senator. He wasn't Speaker of the House. He's not like a representative, a lobbyist, nothing. He's just a private citizen, and he's more powerful than all you guys. Oh, my God. And at the same time, I looked into some of the bill, and in a lot of bills, what they end up doing, this is what they do with bills when it comes to Congress, is that they'll put a face on the bill. Like, okay, so this is for, what she's talking about securing the border, and here's some of the policies, and this is what the budget's going to be in order to implement those policies. But then the mass majority, it's almost like an iceberg. You only see the top 10% of what they tell you. But then the bottom 90% is all like freaking fluff. And it's like, here, we're going to give $20 billion to this place, $20 billion to this place, another $100 billion to this place. And most of it has nothing to do with what the bill is, on its face designed to do. And I think even in the bill that she's talking about, that there was like proposals in there to send Ukraine another $20 billion and to send the same amount to Israel in order to help out with the humanitarian, problems they got going over there with their war on Hamas. So, like I said before, a lot of bills, you only see the top 10% of what they show you, and then bottom 90% is about a whole other slew of agendas that they're trying to get across that they don't tell anybody about. And that's the main reason that Republicans kill most Democrat bills, because that's what they throw in there. Like, most of what's in the bill has nothing to do with the bill itself. And that's why they kill a lot of bills in Congress.
Would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they
part of
they're
the bill.
working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to
Not
ask
only
about
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
just one other question about something that you.
A lot of these bills are money laundering, plans anyway. Like all that 90% I was talking about before, it's money laundering to like the highest degree.
Said in 2019 when you first ran, there was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns.
You're not doing a very good job, because as of right now in New York, in Chicago, in Colorado, there's a bunch of freaking migrants in there that have been bussed in, flown in on planes and things of that sort. And they're getting free housing, free education, free Medicare. So what the fuck are you talking about consequences? There's no consequences for these fucking people. There's way more incentives for them to come here illegally than there are consequences. Get the fuck out of here.
Guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would.
Are you talking about California? Are you talking about San Francisco? Has anybody seen San Francisco lately? The crime rate, the freaking trash, the shit on the street, the homelessness. Has anybody really took a good look at San Francisco lately? The criminality, when like they instituted a law to where you can steal up to $945 worth of goods, and then you won't get chased down and prosecuted. That's what's going on in San Francisco right now, and this is one of the people that were in charge at the time, and it's still going on under Gavin Newsom. California is a shithole right now.
Enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Generally speaking, how should voters.
And California is one of the highest tax states in the union. The highest tax. Our gas right now is near $5. It was at $7 at one point. It's at near $5 right now. So I know a lot of the country is feeling the hurt from like in the inflation. In California, it's way worse. Consider yourself lucky if you're in middle America, man. You don't want to be where California is at right now. Prices for everything is outrageous.
Look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy. Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal.
That's not a good look. That's not a good look. People are going to look at what your values were prior to your time as vice president, and they're going to be fucking horrified. And so you saying your values not changed is not helping you, honey.
I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include.
No, it's not. No, it's not. If that was true, Al Gore said that the entire a good part of the United States, California, was going to be underwater by 2009. We're in 2024, okay? So, yeah, that was bullshit. Even AOC said we had 7 years left. I think back in 2016, 7 years left. So if that's true, it means in 2023 we should be in devastation with the climate. We're not. So all the climate, prophecies that spell out doom for the world in terms of the climate going haywire and shit like that, day after tomorrow type stuff, it never fucking comes true. And if you look at all the people that are spouting out this bullshit, like Al Gore, the Obamas, Clinton, was it Terry something, I forget his name, very, very profitable, high wealthy guy, they all have beachfront properties in the world. It's like, if you're so worried about the fucking global warming and the climate crisis, how the polar ice caps are going to melt and then the ocean's going to rise by hundreds of feet, why the fuck would you buy property on the beach? That makes no freaking sense. No sense whatsoever. All these guys are just actors, paid actors, spewing this shit.
Include holding ourselves.
They want to talk about, powerful lobbyists. They are the most powerful tools of the lobbyists.
To deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around...
And all of that, all these initiatives she's talking about, is costing the Americans a lot of money. Your taxes are going up because of these initiatives, and it hasn't done a fucking thing.
On what we need to do to secure our border. That value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So
how are you going to account for the 13 to 20 million people that are here now that probably brought a lot of that shit? You want to talk about fentanyl and how it's a danger to the community? You allowed all these cartels and everybody to just flood in with that shit. There was no vetting of them. There was no stopping them. You want to talk about being a prosecutor? You are a shitty prosecutor for allowing all this shit to happen.
That is the reality of it. In 4 years of being vice president, I'll tell you,
all this does is hurt her, because I'm like, well, if you know this is a problem, why would you leave the border open for all this time, knowing this is a problem, and letting it go on for years? Are you insane? Are you, like, what the hell? There's no way that somebody in the know would actually vote for Kamala Harris. It's asinine.
The aspects to your point is traveling the country extensively. I mean, I'm here in Georgia. I think somebody told me 17 times since I've been vice president in Georgia alone. I believe it is important to build consensus, and it is important to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually solve problems.
On that note, you had a lot of Republican speakers at the convention. Will you appoint a Republican to your...
So a clear understanding of the problems. Okay, we know what the problems are. Let's move on to the next thing. Let's come up with solutions, lady. You're not coming up with solutions. You're coming up with Band-Aids. Band-Aids are not solutions, okay? That's just a way to temporarily stop the bleeding. We need to treat the wound, woman.
Your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone in mind?
Yes, I would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think it's really important.
Who?
I
Name a
have
name.
spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important.
Don't you say
to
Mitt
have
Romney?
people at
Don't
the
you
table
say
when some of the most important decisions
what's
are
that other
being
guy?
made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
Don't you say Cheney either.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core.
That face right there, to me, when I saw that face, I was like, it was like, shut your effing mouth, bitch. She does not want to hear this question, because a lot of people, this is probably the thing that the most layman person is taking note most in regards to Kamala Harris, is how she's flip-flopping on her heritage. Because before, she was seen as the first Indian senator appointed to the California, Senate seat, and then now she's the first, VP black president, but she's not the first Indian black president or anything like that. And now she's seen as the first, potentially first female black president and stuff like that. And everyone knows that she's quite an opportunist. Ask Judge Willie Brown in California, and he'll tell you firsthand how much of an opportunist she actually is, and how underhanded she is and disingenuous. But yeah, that's what people are like, pointing out the most. Whenever you see about negativity about Kamala, it's usually at this point. Let's see how she answers this.
Part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Let's.
Oh my God, dude. She couldn't even answer the damn question. She couldn't say, well, I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud to be both Indian and black. And I'm a supporter of both communities. And, I lived amongst both of them. And so anybody that has, questions or, some type of concern about, where I land on, they can come and ask me. And I'm going to say that I am both, and I'm happy to be both. I'm happy to be a representative of both, and I'll continue to do so as the future president, hopefully, and that type of thing. She could have said something like that, but she didn't even answer the damn question. Same tired playbook. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What playbook are you saying here? You just totally bypassed the question. You chose not to answer it. It's like, oh man, that's not gonna go over well with people that still are like, okay, well, are you black or are you Indian? Which one do you identify as more as? Do you identify as, multiracial? Come on, give us something. Nothing.
Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be on your plate if you become commander-in-chief. President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you.
Unsuccessfully, by the way. Unsuccessfully. There was just a recent attack not too long ago. You guys suck.
Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped.
You see, they say this, and there's reports of this, but there's no actual, evidence, physical evidence of it. It's that's the thing that a lot of people have a hard time swallowing, because people are saying this happened, but yet I'm not seeing, a lot of things that make sense in terms of evidence of this actually happening. And on the other side, all they're saying is that, hey, we were going to invade this place. The festival actually went on a day longer than it was supposed to. We didn't expect those people to be there. They kind of were defensive of us being there, so we had to take some of them to calm them down and everything like that. But they're claiming that all this massacre stuff now didn't actually take place. So it's okay, who to believe? One side says that they were completely massacred, a bunch of people died, and the other side said no, we just detained them and they're in our care now. But we didn't actually go out and try to hurt people intentionally. We just wanted to go ahead and lock down the area. So it's who do you believe when there's no really physical evidence or video going on? Because it's a festival. You think people would have their phones out and recording this stuff, and if there was massacres going on, you best believe one person was going to catch it, but yet nobody? No one? It's come on, man.
As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. Mm-hmm. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
And in the meantime,
and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at the significance of this to the
Here's the
families, to
significance
the
line.
people who are living in that region.
What about time? We got to hear about the significance of time.
A deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will unlock so much of what must happen next. I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Governor Walz.
That was a non-answer. What the hell was that? Okay, so we have to get a deal done. What deal? What are you talking about? Give us some specifics. What is the primary objectives of this deal? Okay, is it just to separate the two, powers of that region so that Israel is on their side and Palestinians on their side and they have a mutual understanding? Maybe a DMZ, demilitarized zone set up or something like that? Is that what you're talking about? Like a North-South Korea, situation going on? What specifically? Come on, you got to get specifics. This whole, we have to get a deal and that's it. That's not enough. It's not enough to go ahead and push forward, new bills coming forward to go ahead and give Israel hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in defense when they don't actually need it. It's like, come on, man. It's money laundering. That's what it's going to come off as.
The country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor.
No one cares about that.
My
man.
record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools.
So you're saying that the average American lies about military service? Is that what you're saying? I've never been in the military. I would never say that I was in the military or I went to war or that, I got shot once, serving in Afghanistan, Kuwait, or anywhere else, because it didn't happen. That is underhanded for me to try to do that. Stolen valor. For this guy to come out and say, I speak like the American people, so all Americans, lie about, military service? No, they don't. That's egregious. It's underhanded. It's disgusting. You, sir, you should be lambasted into the freaking floor and below the earth. His career should be done in the public service industry anyway.
And around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war,
Yeah.
Did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct. But again, if it's not...
Grammar has nothing to do with lies, dipshit. Grammar is like I said there when I meant there. There and there type of thing. That's grammar. Lying about your service record has nothing to do with fucking grammar. You underhanded piece of shit.
Not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
No, we're not demeaning your service to the country, your 24 years in service to the National Guard. What we're talking about is you lying about going to war, dipshit. We're only talking about one aspect of your service, not the whole thing, the one aspect. We don't care that you've been in the National Guard. I don't care that you served 24 years. What I care about is that you lied about going to war, about, going off and protecting the nation. You never did that, dipshit. You see how they try to go ahead and, switch the goalpost on that? Okay, so you lied about your military service and this one aspect of going to war. That's wrong. Well, I'm proud of my, 24 years of service, and I would never want anybody to tell me that my years of service weren't valid. I'm not saying that your service wasn't valid. I'm saying that you're a piece of shit for lying about one aspect of the service. You're going to see this a lot amongst, political figures, is that once they're caught on something, they try to switch the goalpost to something else.
Other question, because, again, this is all new.
Yeah.
This was not however many days ago, this was not on either of your bingo cards, especially yours, you had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out.
Very public of lying. Yes, we know this. We know this. You've been very public of lying. That's great.
Former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you.
You haven't yet, dipshit. You haven't yet. Say right now, I apologize for those false statements. I misspoke. I'm sorry. Let's move forward.
I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us.
Where's the apology, dude?
I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights.
Okay, so you're not going to apologize. That's great. So you're an underhanded piece of shit that we can't believe a thing that you say. That's great.
The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
Vice President.
He didn't answer oh my God, dude. He didn't apologize at all for misspeaking or to saying lies. This guy's a charlatan at best.
President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all.
That is not going to go over well. It's not going to go over well. Even Democrats knew that Biden's brain was fried after the debate, which is amazing to me that it took the debate for them to figure that out with all the gas that were being sent out. But they're so partisan in their political ideology that they're essentially a cult. A lot of Democrats, to where it doesn't matter who, I will vote blue. There's a saying like that, blue no matter who. That's cult-like mentality. And they're so like that it's I don't care what their position is. All I care is that our side is winning. So they only care about winning in power. And that hurts them in the end, even amongst, the Democrats' base. But they don't care. They just want their side to win. I just want my team to win, even though my team is making me feel like shit. They're taking away my rights. They're taking away my freedoms. They're taking away my paychecks. They're taxing me into the floor. It doesn't matter. My team is winning. That's all they care about. And man, it's sad to see a frog boil to death in water when we're screaming to the frog, hey, you're boiling to death. Get out of the freaking water. This is my tub. This is my water. I'm going to stay in it to the end. I'm going down with the ship, Titanic style. Okay, give me the damn violins. I'm going down with it.
Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room.
Really? So the whole, immigration thing and him allowing 13 to 20 million people into the country, that was loyalty to the U.S. And that whole Afghanistan thing, to where, forget the whole, we left and people died and all that stuff. You left $75 billion worth of U.S. equipment in Afghanistan with a terrorist organization that hates the U.S. That was loyalty to the American people? They just did a parade recently where they showed off all the equipment the U.S. left behind. And this is top grade equipment. It ain't no generations, old stuff. This is our new shit. $75 billion worth. That's the loyalty he's showing to the American people? Holy crap, man.
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that. And so, I am so proud to have served as vice president.
If you're talking about compare and contrast, if she's saying that Biden is loyal to the American people and Trump is not, I'd rather take Trump because Biden's loyalty is shit. I'd rather take the disloyal guy that is probably the opposite. So he's disloyal, that means he's loyal, and Biden is loyal, but he's actually disloyal. Yeah, no, I'd rather take Trump.
To Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for President of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
So she's been part of the last decade. This is the part where I think her whole ideology part like falls apart. It's like, you're part of that, woman. You've been in office for 3.5 years. So if you want to turn the page, you're talking about yourself, buddy. Talking about yourself.
Last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era.
Thank
that
you,
started
Dana.
About a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped, I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about who the Biden administration has lifted up. And that includes her. She's VP. So the people she's lifted up is Ukraine. She's lifted up Israel. She's lifted up illegal immigrants. Who are the people suffering because of her policy proposals and Biden's? The American citizens. So Biden and Harris are for Ukraine, Israel, and the illegal immigrants. Trump, on the other hand, wants to end the war in Israel, end the war in Gaza, so we stop providing aid, and he wants to lift up the, drill baby drill in order to get more wealth into the U.S. He wants to go ahead and institute more tax cuts. He wants to institute, more manufacturing coming back to the U.S. So deregulation to go ahead and bring businesses back so they have incentives to build factories here, which will provide more jobs, provide more wealth, bring in wealth from other countries that buy our products. So that's lifting up the American people. And he wants to do a mass deportation, which is getting rid of all the illegal immigrants that's sucking America dry. Yeah, the contrast is very clear here. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
In this election.
Because we haven't had a chance to talk, I'm just curious, staying on President Biden, when he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away?
I don't care about that.
Finally, investing in America's infrastructure, investing in new
that were perhaps unexpected during the convention. You mentioned, I just have to ask you both about two standout moments, aside, of course, from the addresses that you both gave, but standout moments that were perhaps unexpected during the convention. You mentioned one of them, Governor. A moment that you shared, that the world shared with your son, Gus. You were speaking, the camera caught him, so incredibly proud of you, so emotional, saying,
"Oh my God, I hate this. I hate this pull towards emotion. That's all the Democrats run on is on emotion, and it's a falsehood because emotion doesn't help anybody. Sorry, it doesn't."
Vice President, the photograph that has gone viral. You were speaking, one of your grandnieces that you were just talking about was watching you accept the nomination. You didn't explicitly talk about gender or race in your speech, but it obviously means a lot to a lot of people, and that viral picture really says it. What does it mean to you?
I am running because I believe that I am the best person to do this job at this moment.
No one else believes that, not whatsoever, unfortunately. You know how I know? All the Republican side and the conservatives, they believe Trump or somebody other candidate might be, better off. And even the Democrat side, they know she's not the best person to lead. And you know why I know this? because back in 2019 when she was running for president, they could have chose her. That was the best indicator that she was going to be the best one that everyone thought would be the best fit for the presidential nominee back in 2020. But they didn't choose her. In fact, she was so disliked during that time that she quit before the first primary in Iowa because her poll numbers were so fucking bad that she quit before then. So nobody picked her. Even the Democrats know she's not the best one. She was selected to be the nominee by the higher-ups because she was in position, because she was the vice president, and she had name recognition. They didn't hold another primary when Biden dropped out. That's what should have happened. An emergency primary should have taken place with all the candidates being viable so people can choose who the nominee was going to be. But they didn't do that. They selected one, and everybody just fell in line like a good cult does and says, you know what? Okay, my supreme commander leader said that this is good, so I'm just going to fall in line, even though I would never pick her if it was my own choosing. So your freedom of choice was taken away from you, Democrats, and you just fell in line like good little freaking slaves. Oh, man. Democracy is dead on the Democrat side, okay? Their whole freaking notion of protecting democracy is a joke. They actually stabbed democracy in your face, and you just said, fine. It's okay. It's fine. No, it's not. So your whole freaking notion of saving democracy is over. I don't want to hear that shit no more.
For all Americans, regardless of race and gender. But I did see that photograph, and I was deeply...
Okay, I don't care about this stupid thing. Oh, my little niece looking up at her aunt that's, could possibly be the president. It's so great. Get the fuck out of here, man. I don't care about that crap. Yeah, do not come. Let's see. All right, so there was obviously people had notions of what this actually meant, how the interview took place. Here's Tulsi Gabbard's idea of what she thought about the interview. Let's take a look.
Well, first of all, I think let's just take a step back and look at the lead up to this massively hyped up interview. They've been hyping this up now for over a month. She's going to do a big interview before the end of the month. And so everyone was watching. We're looking, okay, what is this big interview going to be? Finally, Kamala Harris, after 39 days, Queen Kamala descends from her tower to come and talk to the little people. Yeah. And then what we saw made very clear what they've been trying to hide. She came across as very weak, insecure, clearly out of depth on any kind of issues, and not even knowing where she stands on different issues or frankly what her plans are. And she came across as someone who's afraid. And what she's afraid of is that we, the people, will see what she's trying to hide, and that there will be this moment that the American people will be like that child that has the courage to say, hey, guys, the emperor's got no clothes on. And that's her. That's her right now. And that's what came across and I think has been made very clear. It'll be interesting to see now whether they stick with this strategy of trying to hide her or whether the American people are going to continue to see who Kamala Harris really is.
Well, that's right. What's the alternate strategy now? Because I really think this is a big moment in the campaign. So do the betting markets, by the way, which totally flipped in favor of Donald Trump after this aired. How do you play it? Do you...
And unfortunately, and I would say unfortunately, but Tulsi's right. I mean, she came off as not confident in her proposals. She dodged a lot of questions. Her questions were unclear. She didn't actually get into detail about her plans on anything, especially when it came to the border, Israel, cutting down costs. And the proposals she has put forth are all like communist, socialist ideologies, Marxist at best. And it doesn't work. In fact, it's going to drive up prices. It's going to cut down on services and availability of products. And we're going to see mass shortages and possibly, starvation of some areas. That's what we're going to end up seeing if she becomes president. It's not going to be good. I mean, you want to see a good example of what her policies will lead to? Look at Venezuela now and take a look at Russia during the 1930s. And that's what we're headed towards if Kamala becomes president.
hide her more and play into the caricature that she's not capable? You put her out there, but if you put her out there, then she has to actually answer questions, and the big debate's coming up. So where do they go next?
Yeah, who knows what they're going to do? I'm sure they're telling themselves and telling her that she did a good job. But I can tell you what the American people need to hear and they need to see from both candidates running for president is who are you, what do you stand for, what is your record, and what is your plan to solve what is so broken in this country. I've been traveling with President Trump across different states.
And I think that was a great choice by Trump in order to go ahead and get her endorsement. And if she ends up being part of his cabinet, I think that's going to help out too. Because I genuinely think that Tulsi Gabbard actually wants, good things for the American people, especially when it comes to like protecting the American soldiers and the military from unnecessary conflicts. I think that she's actually genuine when it comes to that. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I don't know too much about her, but at least at the face of it, she's coming off as genuine. So I would choose her way before I would ever choose Kamala for anything.
Just over this past week alone, and I've seen him in real time talking with reporters, answering tough questions that have not been pre-vetted, answering questions from voters in the country, speaking about his record, speaking about issues. Voters deserve that from every candidate running for president, and they are not getting it from Kamala Harris, and I think we're seeing why, because she doesn't have anything to say.
Oh, that was brutal. Oh, man. And let's go ahead and put some context when it comes to this, is that Kamala Harris has been the nominee or presumptive nominee for the past 40 days. And then she finally decides to do an interview to address the questions of the American people, at least through the, filter of CNN. And she does a pre-taped interview. It's cut from 41 minutes to 18 minutes. She has her, emotional tampon, Tim Waltz, on there. That actually he instituted a policy to put tampons in boys' bathrooms in his home state of Minnesota. So you know where he stands on a lot of the, transgender shit. And then she didn't look strong when she was answering questions. She dodged some questions completely. She wasn't very specific on, her policy positions or her plans on instituting the positions that she at least addressed in some capacity. So yeah, it's not looking good at all. And let's see what CNN has to say about this interview. I mean, like, the anchors on CNN are already, all for Kamala. So let's see what they have to say about this interview.
It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward. I don't think there's a policy separation that they've created with Biden. Obviously, she gave a kind of personal defense of him.
Now, you might not like the way she answered him, but she answered him as a capable, qualified leader. And I do think she moved
that they've created with.
Did you hear that? I'm gonna play it again, but take a look here for the throat clearing after she says capable leader,
capable, qualified leader, and I do think she.
Even they don't believe it. Even the CNN anchors don't believe that shit, man. Qualified leader. yeah, sure. Oh my God, that's funny.
I think she moved the ball forward a little bit. Maybe she didn't score a touchdown.
I think the two biggest issues coming out of Biden for her are the economic policy.
Man, she is 4th and 35 right now. That's where she's at on the football field. She's 4th and 35.
Policies, which she clearly wants to embrace, but also the immigration policies. Dana asked her if she had anything to say about what they did for 3.5 years leading up until the back and forth this year. Completely sidestepped it, did not answer it. She goes back to her time as Attorney General. But again, absolutely nothing, no responsibility, no reflection at all on the day one executive actions or anything else they did for 3.5 years or anything she said in her previous campaign, which was to have the most permissive immigration structure. She's trying to skip a block of time at the debate. Trump cannot allow it.
It wasn't a huge, I don't think she.
Yeah, the debate is going to be a slaughter. She's not, Trump, if he's smart, is not going to let her get away with a lot of shit. I think it was ABC that's going to be hosting the debate, or is it CNN? I can't remember. CNN did the last one, so they can't hold it again. I think it's ABC that's going to be holding the next debate in September. And of course, they're going to be more accommodating to Kamala. And it might not even happen based off of some of the talk now that the Kamala campaign is essentially trying to change the rules from the previous debate, even though the previous debate was a wish list of the Biden campaign, which Trump agreed to. And he's trying to like keep the rules as is, and then she's trying to change it now, where they allow her to sit down and have notes. Bitch can't stand up for 90 minutes and can't have a cheat sheet, and she's freaking out about it. Now she doesn't want to go ahead and commit to it. It's like, it's pathetic, man. It's totally pathetic. Okay, and this is Newsmax. Newsmax is, you know, they're I trust them more than Fox News in terms of, you know, unbiased reporting in terms of, you know, what's going on in the political realm, but they still lean towards the conservative side, I would say. But let's see what they got to say about this interview.
Even when you look at the optics in this setup, President Trump was right. It did not look presidential. There's a certain threshold that you have to meet when you're looking presidential. Can you lead this country? Other candidates in the past have had it. I don't see that with Kamala Harris. Even Joe Biden, in the event when they put him in.
Yeah, and a lot of people were talking about the interview. Like, the setup was weird. The lighting was off. There's no American flags in the background. It doesn't look like a presidential interview. Is she wearing a blue suit or what?
Say like a still photo.
What was she
this
wearing?
Country.
She's wearing a gray suit. She's not even wearing her Democrat, you know, colors. And so it doesn't look like a presidential interview. It looks like just a normal interview, like from, like, you know, McDonald's or something like that. 18-minute interview, a 30-minute interview. That's what you get when you go work at a, like, you know, first level entry job. That's the type of interview you get. When you go higher up, they get longer and longer and longer and longer because they get more detailed in the questioning, and they actually want to go ahead and hear what you have to say. So yeah, this wasn't treated as a presidential interview. It was treated like, you know, a low entry level job at McDonald's.
Other candidates in the past have had it. I don't see that with Kamala Harris. Even Joe Biden, in the event when they'd put him in, say, like a still photo environment, he would look presidential. May have disagreed with the way that he proceeded in his record. But Kamala looked as though she'd been called in by her teacher and the principal to say, Kamala, you have not been to class one day in 3.5 years. It's time to talk about your record. And on that record, she had no good answers. What we saw, though, there's a big difference between scripted teleprompter Kamala that we saw at the convention. That was only a week ago, by the way. And then actually being in an environment where you don't have notes, you have to actually answer on the fly with what you're being pressed on.
Right.
And the answers were so vague. I mean, my values haven't changed get 3 mentions, and say crime, for example, gets 0 mentions. Even when you...
And yeah, he's absolutely right. Like, the line, my values haven't changed, is going to kill her. It's going to absolutely slaughter her when it comes to Americans determining on who they're going to vote for, because they're going to look back on her values back in 2019 and 2020 when she was the presidential candidate, and they're going to be like, wait, they've completely changed. And like, the Trump campaign is noticing this, and they're throwing it out there that Kamala is now adopting a lot of the policies that Trump has been championing for the past, like, you know, 8 years now. And so they're going to see the contrast. They're going to see that she's a bald-faced liar, and that she, you know, she's an opportunist, and she just goes after what's politically advantageous at the time. And she just comes off as disingenuous and not genuine. And the people, they don't like that. They feel with their gut. She doesn't give off the presence of, you know, strong, capable leader. Leader is the optimal word. She doesn't give that off. She gives off the notion of a spokesman. That's what she gives off. I'm a spokesman. I'm here to spin the narrative. That's what she gives off. She doesn't give off the notion of leader. Okay, what else do we got? Okay, so let's see. Voter on MSNBC destroys Kamala Harris. Okay, let's see what we have here. I forget what this is.
Do you feel some kinship?
Okay, so this is MSNBC. This is basically addressing some voters after the Kamala interview to go ahead and get their, you know, raw reaction to what the interview made them feel or what they thought about it. So let's hear what they got to say.
Do you feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, you know, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
Do you feel some...
Yeah, that was at the very end. Oh, you have your granddaughter in the viral moment where she's looking up at, you know, her aunt being the potential leader of a nation. Such a girl power moment, you know, girl, empowerment, that type of shit. It's like, who gives a shit about that, man? Who cares? But yeah, she's absolutely right. You need more than that type of crap. It was more than just feelings and feeling good and like finally the first woman. That's asinine reasons in order to choose a president in the United States. This is potentially the most powerful person in the world having this job, and the only reason for picking them is because they're a woman and then they make you feel good. That's stupid. So yeah, I totally agree with that lady. And this is just another way of her dodging questions. I'm sure you're going to see some contrast of the interview we just saw of how when she doesn't want to answer something, how she tries to avoid it.
Going to see the same Democratic ticket in 2024?
I'm sorry, we are thinking about today. I mean, honestly, that I know why you're asking the question, because this is part of the punditry and the gossip around places like Washington, D.C. Let me just tell you something. We're focused on the things in front of us. We're focused on what we need to do to address issues like affordable child care, what we need to do to ensure...
So there have been no conversations about 2024?
The American people sent us here to do a job. And right now, there's a lot of work to be done, and that's my focus.
It sounds
sincerely.
Like
affordable child care. That's her platform right now in 2024. This is back in 2022. She had more than 2.5 years in order to institute something to address the issues of affordable child care, and she hasn't done it. And that's what the proposal she's instituting right now: affordable child care, the child tax credit of $6,000 for the first year of her child's life, which is a Band-Aid, by the way. She hasn't done anything for 2.5 years, and they expect her to do something now? No, man. No, get the hell out of here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this... Oh, my God. If she believes this crap, I can't believe it that this is even still a thing. A lot of feminists have this viewpoint, which is retarded. It's been debunked 1,000 times in regards to equal pay between men and women. It's stupid, man. What they do is they take the overall female, what they make within a year, and then they take the overall amount of money that men make within the year, and then they compare and contrast those two totals. The only problem with that is that you don't go into the reasons why the men and women make this amount. So they don't go over job positions, they don't go over time work, they don't go over vacations taken, they don't go over sick leave, they don't go over reasons that men and women work overtime or longer hours, things of that sort. The basic biological mindsets of the two, they don't go over any of that. Paternity leave, pregnancies, they don't go over any of that during those analysis of the equal pay, conspiracy theory, which it essentially is. And so she's just reiterating the same stupid talking points that every feminist goes over, which is dumb. I mean, Jordan Peterson goes over it way more articulately than me.
Here's one of the other things that I'm prepared to do, which is deal with the issue of equal pay.
Mm-hmm.
We passed the Equal Pay Act in 1963. Fast forward to the year of our Lord, 2019. Women are paid 80 cents on the dollar. Black women 61 cents, Native American women 58 cents, Latinas 53 cents. We're still having this conversation.
Right.
So here's what I'm prepared to do. Instead of putting the burden on that working woman to prove that she's not getting paid as much, I'm going to shift the burden to the corporations to require that they prove they're paying people equally.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to post that information on their website. And there's more. And to the point that they are paying women differently than men. For every 1% that they're paying women different than men, an equal 1% of their previous year's profits will be fined. And they will have to pay.
And you know what this will do? First off, the companies are going to have no problem, proving that they're paying them equal, because, it's all about times of work, vacations, taken, sick leave, paternity leave, and all that stuff. All that documentation is already there for them to show. But all this is going to do is take up time. I'm sure that they're going to have to pay another person in order to do this work. The government's going to go ahead and institute taxes on the work that's being done. So it's going to cost the corporations more. And what that's going to end up doing is, because they have this new cost they have to go ahead and pay for, that means that, wages are going to go down, services are going to go down, and production is going to go down. So everyone's going to get less of everything. Good job, dumbass Kamala Harris, for trying to go ahead and prove a notion that has been debunked for, at least 10 years now, and trying to push it forward. You fucking idiot. And I'm sorry for swearing. I'm sorry for swearing and stuff like that. I know a lot of people don't like it, but then when I get heated up like that, I have to catch myself. And then when it comes to she said during the interview, "Hey, my opinions have never changed." Okay, so this is what she believes about censorship and how government should handle censorship, especially when it comes to X, Twitter.
He has lost his privileges, and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say
She's talking about Trump, by the way.
that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation, and that has to stop.
So what she's essentially saying is that there should be government interventions on public platforms in order to go ahead and censor or limit free speech. Okay, they did this during the 2020, during the general election, when everybody thought it was stolen, which it was, because you take a look at Wisconsin and Georgia, or Wisconsin and what was the other one? Michigan, by the way. They're finding a bunch of crazy shit right now when it comes to double counting false votes, unverified signatures, scans of specific votes, how the Dominion machines flipped votes from Trump to Biden, how people just blatantly threw votes out for Trump because they didn't believe he should be president. The vote counters, by the way. I showed this in a few streams back, and you can go ahead and check that out on my channel, Modern Dragon. It's subscription bar is right there, so you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, man. Basically, what she's saying is that I believe that the government should have oversight over these public platforms. So if there's anything we don't like, we can go ahead and force them to censor it and stuff like that. We're talking about the Hunter Biden laptop during the 2020 election with Joe Biden. If that story had gotten out, a lot more people would have been hesitant to vote for Joe Biden and went over to Trump, because he's obviously lying, and Trump and his son is doing a bunch of illegal shit that implicates Biden as well. They crushed that story, the whole thing, with 51 FBI officials saying that it was Russia disinformation, which we know now is bullshit, and it is Hunter Biden's laptop, and that they essentially lied to the American people. Yeah, I'm not for this at all. You crazy woman. Okay. Let's see what this is. Okay, so I started looking at some of her history of being a senator and some of the stuff that she was trying to get across as a U.S. Senator of California. And I came across this one, S Resolution 118, a resolution condemning hate crime and any other form of racism, religious and ethnic bias, discrimination, incitement to violence, or animus targeting a minority in the U.S. This was back in 2017, 2018 that she instituted this proposal. Let's see. Shows here passed Senate without amendment in April 2017. Condemns hate crime and any other form of racism. Blah 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 blah. Affirms that the United States, in condemning hate and evil in all forms, rejects hate-motivated crime as an attack on fabric of society and ideas of pluralism and respect. Calls on federal law enforcement officials working with state and local officials to expeditiously investigate all credible reports of hate crimes and incidents and threats against minorities in the United States and bring the perpetrators to justice. Encourages the Department of Justice and other federal agencies to work to improve the reporting of hate crimes and to emphasize the importance of agencies' collection and reporting of data pursuant to federal law, and the development of an interagency task force led by the Attorney General to collaborate on the development of effective strategies and efforts to detect and deter hate crime in order to protect minority communities. So basically, what they're saying is that we're going to go after any instance of hate crime and develop an infrastructure to go ahead and enforce the laws around, trying to deter people from committing hate crimes and, reporting them if they do occur. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what Department of Justice determines as a hate crime. So this is from the U.S. Department of Justice official website. Learn about hate crimes. What is a hate crime? A crime plus motivation of committing crime based on bias. And that's what they consider as a hate crime. And they go under each individual definition of both words. Hate. The term hate can be misleading when used in a hate crime law. The word hate does not mean rage, anger, or general dislike. In this context, hate means bias against people and groups of specific characteristics that are defined by the law. At the federal level, hate crime laws include crimes committed on the basis of victims' perceived or actual race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. Perceived. That's the optimal word here. A victim's perceived actual race. So it's not even that like they blatantly come out and say, I hate black people, I hate, disabled people, or whatever the thing may be. No. It's the perceived notion of a hate crime. So if anybody with a minority, group is, subject of a crime, okay, no. We can go ahead, if we so choose to, perceive it as a hate crime. Or if the person that they themselves are, very prejudiced can say, hey, he did this to me because I'm black, or I'm a woman, or whatever. It's like, it's this type of notion is totally subject to huge opportunity of corruption. Because anybody that's ever been victim of a crime or what they perceive as, biased behavior against them, they can just go out and throw a baseless accusation out there, and then the DOJ is going to be like, well, it's perceived, so yeah, I guess so. Okay, I guess this is a hate crime now. It's like, it's total bullshit, man. And the crime and hate crime is often a violent crime, such as assault, murder, arson, vandalism, or threats to commit such crimes. It may also cover conspiracy and asking other person to commit such crimes, even if the crime was never carried out. So just even talking about the crime is enough to go ahead and institute a hate crime. Isn't that retarded? Okay, I think about there's a rainbow flag over there across the whole street. I don't want my kids exposed to the LGBTQ community because they're kind of nuts. So, I'm just going to go ahead and wash it off. Oh, hate crime. Or I'm even thinking about doing that. Hate crime. It's so dumb, man. It's totally susceptible to huge levels of corruption. It's kind of like the Salem witch trials, back in the, dark ages, where if they didn't like a particular woman, all they had to do was say, hey, that woman didn't go out with me, she didn't sleep with me, or she said something I didn't like, so she's a witch. Oh, witch. No evidence that she's ever was a witch, but the perceived notion is she is a witch, so she must be a witch. I mean, witches have the ability to hide their witchiness from everybody, so there's no real way to tell, but everybody perceives her to be a witch, so I guess she's a witch, so we gotta burn her at the stake. So yeah, that's the problem with all these stupid policies being pushed forward, especially around this stupid notion of hate crimes. We have hate crime laws, whatever. The rest is just jargon. All right, that's going to be it for today. Anybody watching or anybody that was following me along, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and go ahead and subscribe if you like what I'm talking about, or if you want to follow me forward. If so, I welcome you very much. And yeah, have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great Saturday night, and I'll see you next time. All right, with that, bye.